Okay, so let's quickly zip through this procedural review. In what form is the quadratic function written? So this is about just knowing, is it standard, intercept, or vertex?
Intercept.
It is intercept. And why? This one looks a little strange. I can do one thing here real quick.
Well, it's because it's missing the K.
Yeah, it's not the K. It's because it's missing. If we compare this to intercept forms, I guess I should use green, huh? That's the one, right? Now, why? This one's a little bit tricky. What's A? -1. Good. What's Q?
There is none.
-4, right? Because we're subtracting. But the tricky part is, what's P?
-4.
No.
It is a positive.
This is the same thing as negative the quantity x minus 0 times x minus -4, right? That's pretty bad printing there. Right? If I see an x by itself, that's a factor, right? But we wouldn't write the -0, but it could be there, right? So that we know that the x-intercept that goes with that factor is 0. The x-intercept that goes with this one is -4. It's almost easier. This might seem a little dorky in hindsight. I mean, when we did this, we hadn't talked about factoring yet, but now we have. We know what factoring is. So if I take this equation right here, -x times x plus 4, and I set that equal to 0 to find the zeros, find where y equals 0, the x-intercepts, in other words, right? If I do that, think what we get. When I set that factor equal to 0, what's the answer? -4. So that's what we used to call Q. We don't need to call Q anymore. It's just the x-intercept, right? That's one of them. What's the x-intercept for that factor? 0. Okay, and so because it's easy for us to get, here's how you can think about this. It's really the best way. Because we can just set the factors equal to 0 and solve, that is in x-intercept form, right? It's in factored form, same thing, right? It's not vertex form and it's not standard form because we can set the fact it's factored, right? Okay. All right, moving on. So let's see if we go, whoops. Now, we've obviously figured this out by now, but the procedural test and study guide, review assignment, all it's about is just knowing what to do. I don't care what the answer is, just what do we do here. Enter the number corresponding to the easiest and most efficient way of solving the following equation. Not the only way, but the best way.
Isolate x.
Yeah, I'm going to isolate x. How come? It's only one x. If I can point to a single x, if I can point to a single x, then I can always isolate it, and that's the easiest way. Okay, so that would be isolate x. Now, if you got to just flag me down if you got a question. I'm going to go through this one a little faster, but don't. If you have a question, please ask. You do, someone else does. I promise.
Are we going through every single question on here?
I'm just going to quickly. I mean, we may be able to skip some. Yeah, this one goes pretty quickly.
Yeah, you're drawing a line.
I'm drawing a line. You're right, I am. Okay, what about this one?
Square root it.
Everybody see that? If I want to solve for x here, all I've got to do to get the x by itself is square root both sides. So then, and you're familiar with what to do then, right? I would just put in, choose this, and then put in SQR in the blank. Okay. All right. Okay, now don't say anything out loud. Everybody take a look at this for a second here. What do we do this time? To solve for x, I would first do what? Now, get your bearings and just think about this for a moment. Okay, somebody raise your hand now. Everybody have a suggestion what we could do here? What do you think? Laura, what do you think? Add 1. Good. Now, what's our overall strategy on this one to solve for x? Do we want to FOIL that thing out and all that stuff? No. What do we want to do for sure? Can I point to a single x here?
No.
Yeah, I can. Right there. So what do? Isolate. What would all the steps be? First I'm going to add 1. Then I'm going to divide by 4. Then I'm going to square root. Then I'm going to add 6. Yeah. Okay. Good. So the answer then that we would input for this one would just be add to both sides the term 1. Right? Okay. Solve for x here. Now this is, you got to think about this a little bit. There's a couple, if I pull down this menu, there are a couple options that might look pretty good. Which two could we narrow it down to for sure? Quadratic or factor would be the two. I can't point to a single x here. I've got x squared terms and x terms, so I can't isolate x, right? I've got to do something different.
You want quadratic.
Do I want to try to factor this?
No.
How come?
It's way too hard.
Too hard. I got a 3 in front of the x squared. And I can't, now sometimes that's okay. If this were a 3 and that were a 9 and that were a 6 or something, then I could divide both sides by 3 and make it a lot easier, and then maybe I could factor it. But I can't do that here, can I? I'm stuck. There's no number that goes into all, 3, 7, and 8, so I can't divide anything away, right? So I'm just going to use the quadratic formula. That'd be the easiest, best way to do it. Okay, what about this one? I don't say anything yet. Never take a look. What do you think on this one? Over here. Connor, what do you think? Any ideas? Put you on the spot.
Try to get x on one side, I guess.
Well, if there were single x, that would be a good idea. Try to isolate x. Can I isolate x here? How come?
There's 2 of them.
I've got x squareds and x's. So I'm not going to be able to isolate x.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Set equal to 0. Good. So how would I accomplish that? Good, good. Now this one's a little bit tricky how you input this. So we're going to add to both sides the term, or terms in this case, the terms what? 5x plus 2. Yeah. Let me make this, you can't see that when if I make this big, the text doesn't fit. Let me do this for just a second. So add to both sides the terms 5x plus 2. So I got to type here. Let's see. Where's my screen? Oh, there it is. Okay, so 5x plus 2.
Yep.
Okay, so okay, what about, oops, how do I get quiet there? What about this one? Add 7, sure, right? We want to get it set equal to 0. Okay, so add 7 to both sides. Everybody take a look at that, don't say anything. What do you think? Mr. Carter, what would you do on that one?
Divide by -6.
Good. And the reason being, we got a single x we can point to, so we want to isolate it. First divide by -6. Okay. What about this one? Good.
You want to isolate that out.
Okay, Grant, what would you do on this one? Subtract 6. Good. We got a single x we can point to. We want to isolate it. So we'll first subtract 6. Then what would I do? Divide by 2, then square root. Okay, good. Okay, what about this guy? Now this is a little tricky. Look closely. There's several things you could do, but what's the best? Divide by 2. Good. Look, all these numbers are even, so if I divide everything by 2, that's going to make this problem easier. No matter what. Maybe it'll make it factorable. If not, it's going to make the numbers I plug into the quadratic formula smaller, which makes them easier. Less of a chance of making a mistake. So divide both sides by 2, right? By the factor 2. Okay, what about this one? Oh, enter the number corresponding to the easiest and most efficient way of solving this guy. Isolate x. How come? Okay, now I see 2 x's up there, and there, right? But they're like terms, so I can combine them into one. Good. Good. So isolate x. Questions on that? Okay? Okay, what form is that in? Standard, vertex, or intercept?
Standard.
Standard, very good. Okay, that's fine. Sure. All right, thanks. Okay, how about this one? Easiest, most efficient way? Factor. Right. Now, I want to make sure everybody understands why. Look at this. If I've got, let me make this a little bigger. So if I've got 15x squared minus 15x equals 0, how do I factor that? What can I divide away from each term? 15x. Got to get the x. If I divide away a 15x, what am I left with? X minus, if I'm undistribute a 15x, 1. Good. And that's super simple. Right now I've got this thing factored. If I want to find the zeros, when is 15x equal to 0? When x is 0. Good. So there's x equals 0 or x equals 1. Right? So that's definitely one we can factor because, and the dead giveaway there is that I see an x in both terms. So I know I can factor at least an x out. Okay? All right. Okay, what about that one? Yes?
Can I go to the office?
Sure.
Quadratic formula.
Okay, yeah, now that's correct. How come this is quadratic formula and not factoring?
Because you can't have 2 that multiply to 9.
There are no magic numbers. What numbers multiply to -9 and add to -5? There aren't any. Integers anyway, right? So that's definitely quadratic formula. Okay, square root both sides, right? And okay, this is a different one. What do we do here? Cut. Multiply both sides. Good. How come?
Clear the fractions.
Clear the fractions. Good, good. So we're going to multiply both sides through by the least common denominator, or least common multiple of all the denominators. So it's going to be 12. Good. Multiply both sides by the factor, and then I would just put a 12 in there. Right? Okay, what form is that in? Intercept. Right, everybody see that? It's factored. Okay, how about that? Quadratic formula. There are no 2 numbers multiply to -8 and add to 11. Okay, what do you do there? Divide by 9? Then what would I do? Square root. Then subtract 1. Okay, what do you do here?
Multiply by 5.
Okay, that's 5/2, you mean?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, if we want to get rid of this fraction, yeah, we're going to multiply both sides through by 5/2. Make sense? Then what would I do?
Square root it.
Square root. Okay.
Add -9.
Okay, add -9. Yeah, you don't have an option for subtract, do you? So you'd have to add to both sides -9. Same thing. All right. Let's see what else we got. I think we've just about seen them all.
Yeah. Factor.
Okay, this we could factor. What are the magic numbers that multiply to 24, add to 25?
24 and 1.
24 and 1. So factor. What form?
Vertex.
Vertex. A times x minus h squared plus k, right?
Yes.
Okay. Good, good. How about there?
Factor.
Factor. 8 and 1 are the magic numbers, right? Okay, what about here?
Factor.
Okay, you could factor, right? Factor both sides because I've got an x in both terms.
Yeah.
Did everybody get that one? That's an important one. Everybody get that one? Okay. Yeah, we don't want to use the quadratic formula. We don't need to. We can factor it. That's easier to factor out an x.
Multiply by 3.
Multiply by 3. Good. What about there?
2.
Multiply by 2. Okay. Last page. Multiply by 3/2. Quadratic formula. Seems like we had that exact one, didn't it? Or very similar. Okay, and then last one.
60 multiplied by 60.
Yeah, we're going to clear the fractions. Multiply by the least common multiple of 3, 5, and 2, which would be 30. Yeah. Very good. Okay, so that one's, everybody feel pretty good about the procedural one?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
No, one said it was 6 4.
All right, let's move on.
6 4 and 2. No, 6 4 2. 12. 6 4 3. No, this one was negative 4. It's 1.
All right, let's go through a non-graphing calculator practice test. Now, here's the deal about this. My point here, I know you guys still have probably some work to do. You have a few days left to finish up those review assignments. My goal is not to go through every conceivable kind of problem on this, but the test is pretty representative. Now, there's going to be some, you might get one that's a slightly different look than this, but I just want to get you thinking about the kinds of things you're going to have to do, how we approach the problems. So with one like this now, this is the one where it tells you to open up that separate page that's got the graphs on it. We want to find the fingerprint of this function so that we can identify it quickly and easily from our list of many, many choices, right? Now, what's going to be the giveaway on this one? What's probably the first thing you want to look for that might give this graph away?
If it opens up or down.
Okay, a couple things. First of all, we know that it opens up. How come?
4.
Okay, A is 4, right? Because A is 4, I know it's going to look like that. Okay, that's good. Now, what else? There's going to be a lot of graphs on there that are going to open up, parabolas that open up. What's going to help us identify this one? The vertex would work, sure. Is there something maybe even easier? What is this? What form is that in? Intercept form. So what are the intercepts?
1 and negative.
1 and negative 1. Sure, I'm going to get from this right here. This is telling me that P is -1, and this is telling me that Q equals 1, right? So I know then that my parabola is crossing the x-axis at -1 and 1, right? Where's the vertex going to be in this case? What's the x-coordinate of the vertex? In the middle. Right, so what's the average of -1 and 1?
0.
0, right. So the x-coordinate of the vertex is at 0. If I plug 0 back in, I can find out what y is. Y is just going to be 0 plus 1, which is 1, times 0 minus 1, right? So that's -1. So 4 times 1 times negative 1 is negative 4. So I even know where the coordinates of the vertex are. I know that that's where it crosses the y-axis, right? Okay. So I don't probably even need all that stuff, though. I bet you that if I just know where the x-intercepts are and then it opens up, that's probably enough, right? Okay. Questions on that? Okay. All right. Whoops. Gosh. What about this guy? Consider that. That one's a little tougher. But we can get it. We got to do a little calculating on this one though. All right. So on this one, what's the what are some things that can help me identify it? Does it open up or down?
It opens down.
It opens down. Good. So A is negative, so we know it opens down. Now, how do we go about finding, well, you tell me, what's next? Yeah, you don't have to. If you can, it'd be good. I'd like to do it if you can. Yes, ma'am. Can I get everybody up here, please? Thanks. Okay, right now, it tells us, in this case, tells us the vertex, doesn't it? It's a little bit of an odd number, but it's not that big a deal, is it? What are the coordinates of the vertex here? It's in vertex form. What's h? Is it 1/2? Because it's x minus h, right? But what's k? $25. So maybe I jumped the gun. This one really isn't that bad, is it? We know what the coordinates of the vertex are. The vertex is going to be at 0.5, and then what's that going to be? 8 goes to 25 how many times? 3. And then 1/8, 0.125. So that's, just a little over 3 we'd know. And so we got it, right? It opens down. There's the vertex, right? Okay, questions? Okay. Okay, factor. All right, factor. Okay, now this is one that factors. If it factors easily because I've got a 1 in front of the x squared. So what's that going to factor into?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, I got to put x's there, right? What are my magic numbers that multiply to 12, add 7? 4 and 3. There you go. So we would just enter down here x plus 4 times x plus 3. On a test, what would I do for sure?
Check it.
Display a response to make sure that it turned out to be what I thought it was going to be. Why not? You might have, maybe you made some dumb little, you occluded a space or something goofy like that. You might as well know that you're getting it right. Okay? Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you keep 3 first.
Say it again.
It doesn't matter if you keep 3 first.
On this?
It makes no difference. Yeah, no difference.
Other ones are
I know.
Oh,
No.
Okay. What about this? What two numbers multiply to 32 and add to 18? Multiply to positive 32, add to positive 18.
16 and 2.
16 and 2. Okay. Good? Okay, fine. Now, how about this one?
What are you trying to
Look, hang on a sec. Let's read the directions on this. Find the greatest real solution or the complex solution with the greatest imaginary coefficient. So, meaning the plus sign in the quadratic formula, right? Or the plus sign in the plus or minus square root thing, right? So, okay, I would not recommend the decimal thing. It ought to work, but Just enter it as an exact answer, and you're guaranteed to get it right. So what do we do then on this problem to solve for x?
Combine by terms.
Combine like terms. So I'm going to subtract 2x squared from both sides, right? And what else then? Subtract 13. Now, what am I going to get if I do that stuff? On the left side, I'm going to get
5x squared
5x squared on the right side.
equals 5.
Okay,
Divide by 5.
divide by 5.
X squared equals 1.
So, what's x equal?
-1. Oh wait, no. Just be 1.
What am I going to do there?
Oh wait, you got square root.
Square root both sides. So I'm going to get x equals plus or minus the square root of 1, which is what? 1. Yeah. So we want the positive answer. 1. Right? Okay. Same deal. Same deal. We want to find the greatest real solution or the complex solution with the positive coefficient of complex coefficient.
Would you want to set it equal to?
Okay. We could, but let's think about the overall strategy here. What am I going to do in this case?
Subtract 48.
What's my overall strategy?
That's it.
Isolate x. Good. I'm going to isolate x because I can point to a single x. So to get the x by itself, first thing I'm going to do is subtract 48. Second thing I'm going to do is divide by 5. Third thing, square root. Last thing, add 1. Okay, so we know the steps. Let's just execute those steps. If I subtract 48, whoops, I get 5 times the quantity x minus 1 squared equals what? Negative 23? If I subtract 48, everybody agree? Okay. Divide by 5.
Whatever that'll be.
Okay.
Square root.
Okay, square root. Now here's where it gets a little funky. What am I going to get when I square root here?
Plus or minus.
I'm going to have a plus or minus.
What is it? Plus or minus.
Square root of negative 23/5. So what do I do with the negative? I take a square root of a negative. That's giving me
Replace it with 1.
imaginary number. All right, so I end up with x minus 1 equals plus or minus I times the square root of 23/5. Okay. Last step. Add 1. Okay, add 1. So then finally I get my answer. I get
I don't like these.
x equals 1 plus or minus I times the square root of 23/5. Now it wants the positive complex coefficient, so we're going to take the plus sign. We got to enter that thing though. So let's practice this. That's a lot of stuff to enter. Let's make sure we understand how to do that. So okay, so you guys tell me please how to do that. Okay.
1 plus
1
QRT.
Plus I
SQRT.
times SQRT square parentheses, right? And what? 23/5.
But doesn't it mean you do the test?
No, I don't think so. Let's go. We'll look.
That's what I thought it
And it's also
If you choose, I wouldn't recommend it. It says if you choose, don't though. Just enter it. Just enter it. Okay, I'm really disappointed. There's so much talking going on right now. I'm hearing I've heard a lot of constant background. It's hard for me sometimes to focus on the questions, so I can only imagine what it's like out there.
Because when I do stuff, like when I do the 22 together, it always seems to be like wrong.
Well, let's try it. Let's see what happens. We'll see if it doesn't work. Okay, so 1 plus I square root. Let's hit display response. Let's try it. No. Does that look good?
Yeah.
Okay. Looks good. Always do that, though. These kind are so easy to make, to make some little mistake you didn't anticipate. If you do that, you can tell. You can tell if you entered the string correctly. Submit. And we got it. Okay? Okay, what about this?
I don't like that.
If the following expression is simplified and written in standard form, a plus bi, what is the value of the complex coefficient b? Now, I'll tell you what, on these, okay, this is not going to be a decimal. I changed the ones, the division ones might be. And I changed those to say it wanted you to round to 2 decimal places, and it didn't say that. So if you're having trouble with those, that's why. I also, did I say this already? I don't know if I did. But I've changed, I don't think I did. The procedural review assignment, penalties are going to apply on that. But the other two, I got thinking, and that was a bad choice on my part. I have done away with the penalties on the second 2 review assignments. In other words, what that means is, as long as you get the right answer, you'll get full credit. You're not going to have to redo the assignment. Okay, so I regraded it, so if you've been working on it, it'll give you those points back. Does that make sense? That was a bad choice on my part. I apologize. I shouldn't have done that. But it's fixed now. What's that? Right. So if you missed it and then it took points away, and it'll give them back to you.
Okay, let's see.
It gave them back to you.
I don't like that. Would you combine like terms in this case?
Okay, quiet please. So what do we do with this then? If we're going to just add or subtract complex numbers, what do we do?
What did you distribute?
Say it again. Yeah, good. We'll distribute the negative sign. Good. So this is going to look like 15 plus 4i minus 13 minus 8i. And so now what? Yeah, just combine like terms. Combine the complex imaginary terms and the real terms, right? So we end up with 15 minus 13 is 2, 4i minus 8i. Which part do they want? The complex coefficient b would be what? Negative 4. Now, not negative 4i.
Oh, no, negative 4.
Negative 4. Yeah. Okay, we only want the part that's the coefficient of I. So that's what's being multiplied by I. So we just want this. Okay? That's it. Now that word, that's an important word. Coefficient means the number in front of. All right. And how are we doing here? Find the greatest, okay, greatest real or complex solution with the plus sign. What do we do?
Subtract 2x, so 2.
Okay, good. Standard form. Push it all to the left side. So I'm going to get 5x squared, what, plus 18x? Okay, now this takes us back to a strategy question. For sure, what are we going to do here? We're going to try to factor that?
No, we're going to use the quadratic formula.
Quadratic formula. Yeah. Quadratic formula. So what do I get? X equals what?
Negative b plus negative 18.
Okay.
Plus or minus square root b squared.
Okay, 18 squared, 18 is b. Minus 4 times
5 and 6. Divided by
all divided by
2
10.
and 5.
Good. Okay, that's it, right? So we just have to simplify that a bit.
I don't remember the That's
18 squared, that's a doozy. What's that? I don't know that one. Somebody got to tell me that one. I don't know off the top of my head. Sorry.
18 squared.
324. Okay.
So I'll tell you what you should figure it out.
Okay, help me out. 324 minus, now this is easy. 4 times 5 is 20 times 6 is 120. So 324 minus 120 is, yeah, you do. What's 320 minus 120? 204 the answer, yeah.
But it's still the square root of it, though. That's the issue. I don't like square roots.
Okay, now it does not say, and I don't care if you do, it doesn't say in here that you have to simplify that answer.
Really?
So you can put that in. That is the exact answer. And most of the time, now the reason I didn't on these questions, some of them you have to, some of them you don't. On these, the reason I didn't is because most of the time you're just going to turn it into a decimal anyway. So if you're going to turn it into a decimal, which we're not here, but if you were going to.
Where if you like solve it completely down, would you so you type that answer?
Oh, it'd be, yeah, that'd be fine, it'd be even better. But this is fine. So how would I enter this, though, as a string?
-8.
Okay.
I don't know how you do this, plus or minus.
We're just doing the plus.
Oh,
right?
we are, okay. SQRT. Oh, do we want we're getting parentheses though?
Ah, okay. Parentheses. I need those, don't I?
So it divides the whole thing by 10.
There we go. Okay. Good. Mm-hmm. All right. And that's right. I promise you that's right.
Is this graphing or non-graphing?
This is non-graphic. Okay, what do we do with that one?
Same thing.
Quadratic formula. Okay, and let's see. Okay, yeah, here's one we probably want to take a quick look at. Well, I don't know. Do we want to? This is the multiplication. What would I do? I guess we will. What would we do with this?
Multiply 10 and 9.
Well, but broadly speaking, I don't want specifics. Somebody, raise your hand, please. Somebody tell me, what do I do when I'm multiplying complex numbers? Yeah, you got an idea. Foil it out. Sure. You distribute. Foil it out. So I'm going to get first times first is what? 90 outer.
99.
Okay, inside. And then the last. What's I squared? -1. So that's just going to make that a minus 77, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. What were we looking for here? We wanted. Oh, see now. Okay, we want the. Shouldn't say complex coefficient. It should say the real part. But I got to change that. So we're looking for A. What's A going to be?
It's going to be 90 minus 77.
Good. 90 minus 77 is 13? 23. No, 13.
13.
Okay, let's try it.
Yeah, I just realized that. Oh, we only got 1 minute. Oh.
Okay, you get it?
How do you do that?
Okay. Well, I'll pick that up tomorrow. All right.
I didn't get to the
Finish up tomorrow in the lab Friday.